right, black and white sports supporters. Well, don't look now. Don't look now, but it looks like, if I am reading this correctly, and if my understanding of the previous CBA is correct, and somebody may come back and correct me, but it looks like the WNBA finally turned a profit in 2025.
Here is what can be confirmed with certainty based on the available details. Under the collective bargaining agreement signed in 2020, players are entitled to receive 50% of what is categorized as shared revenue. That term has a very specific definition within the agreement. It refers only to revenue that exceeds a predetermined threshold after 30% has already been deducted to account for operating expenses. In other words, the formula does not apply to total league income. It applies only to the portion that surpasses a preset financial benchmark once costs have been considered. According to figures released through the WNBA Players Association, the players' share for 2025 reached approximately $16 million. That total is not distributed in a single lump payment. Instead, it is divided into two separate pools. $8 million is allocated directly to active players from the previous season, functioning essentially as a performance-based distribution tied to league revenue growth. The other $8 million is earmarked for marketing partnerships, promotional campaigns, and off-season initiatives designed to increase visibility and brand value for both athletes and the league itself. That structure reveals something important about how modern sports leagues think about compensation. Direct salary is only one component. Marketing revenue, licensing agreements, sponsorship appearances, and promotional events now represent a significant portion of an athlete's earning potential. By dividing the payout into competitive and promotional categories, the agreement reflects an understanding that visibility and marketability are as financially important as on-court performance. However, one crucial piece of information is missing from every official statement released so far. Neither the union nor league officials have disclosed the precise profit figure that actually triggered the payout. That omission has become a focal point of debate. Without knowing the exact revenue number that activated the clause, analysts can only estimate the league's true financial position. Transparency advocates argue that such details would help contextualize the milestone. League representatives counter that financial thresholds are confidential under the terms of the agreement. This tension between disclosure and confidentiality is common in sports labor negotiations. Financial data is power. Revealing too much can weaken bargaining leverage. Revealing too little can create suspicion. And in this case, the absence of a precise figure has turned what could have been a straightforward financial announcement into an ongoing analytical puzzle that economists, reporters, and fans are all trying to solve.
For the players. And that news just broke this morning. I'm not sure what this proves because what if the league made $25 million profit? I mean, are we here to consider that to be good? What if they made $50 million profit?
There is another financial stream tied to players that has quietly matured over the past 5 years, and its impact is just as revealing as the revenue sharing trigger. The union recently announced that it will distribute approximately $9.25 million in licensing revenue generated between 2020 and 2025. That pool comes from merchandise and commercial products featuring player likenesses or branding, including jersey sales, trading cards, video game appearances, and other officially licensed items carrying union authorization. More than 250 athletes are eligible to receive payments from this fund, and notably, eligibility is not limited to current roster members. Former players, waived athletes, and retirees who participated during the licensing period are also included. That structure reflects a collective model in which commercial value is shared among the broader player community rather than concentrated solely among active stars. The maximum payout is around $50,000 for individuals who are active throughout all 6 seasons of the licensing window. To understand how dramatic that growth is, consider the comparison point. During the previous licensing cycle from 2016 through 2019, the maximum distribution per player was only about $1,600. The jump from $1,600 to $50,000 is not incremental. It is exponential. Such an increase indicates that merchandise demand, brand visibility, and commercial partnerships have expanded substantially in a relatively short time span. Licensing revenue is often overlooked when fans discuss athlete earnings, but in modern sports it has become a crucial component of financial ecosystems. Jerseys, collectibles, and digital appearances generate income streams that can rival or even exceed traditional sponsorship deals. When licensing payouts rise this sharply, it signals that consumer demand for league-related products is strengthening. That kind of demand is one of the clearest indicators of growing cultural relevance. Taken together, the revenue-sharing payout and the licensing distribution paint a broader picture. They suggest that the financial foundation supporting players is diversifying. Instead of relying solely on salaries negotiated with teams, athletes are increasingly benefiting from league-wide commercial growth. And when multiple income channels expand simultaneously, it changes how both sides approach future negotiations. Players see proof of rising value. Owners see evidence of expanding markets. The debate then shifts from whether growth exists to how that growth should be divided.
Would be at least probably $20 million to have triggered this. Union leaders said the league notified player leadership earlier this month that they hit the benchmark. 13 teams will receive a total of $8 million from the league to disperse amongst players, the union said. The Women's National Basketball Players Association declined to provide bank statements. The amount of revenue generated by the league or the number required.
To fully understand why this milestone feels so dramatic, you have to look at the historical context behind those revenue targets. The benchmarks outlined in the 2020 agreement were not random projections. They were calculated using 2019 financial results as a baseline and then applying an annual compound growth rate of roughly 20% for each subsequent season. At the time the deal was signed, that trajectory already seemed ambitious. Many insiders quietly doubted whether the league could sustain that level of expansion year after year. Then the global pandemic struck, disrupting sports leagues worldwide. Seasons were shortened, attendance was restricted, and sponsorship markets tightened. Those setbacks hit especially hard in 2020 and 2021, pushing revenue well below projected growth curves. Inside league circles, some executives reportedly began to believe the negotiated thresholds might exist only on paper, technically possible but realistically unreachable. The idea that revenue sharing would actually be triggered within a few years started to look increasingly unlikely. Yet by 2024 and 2025, the narrative shifted dramatically. Audience engagement rose, media attention intensified, and new waves of fans began tuning in. Analysts point to several contributing factors: improved broadcasting exposure, expanded marketing strategies, and the arrival of headline-grabbing talent such as Caitlin Clark, whose entrance into the professional ranks generated extraordinary viewership interest. While no single athlete can account for an entire league's financial trajectory, high-visibility stars often act as catalysts that accelerate trends already in motion. What makes this transformation so striking is how quickly perception changed. Just a few years earlier, insiders were privately predicting the benchmarks would never be reached. Now those same thresholds have not only been met but surpassed. That reversal illustrates how volatile sports economics can be. Growth can stall unexpectedly, but it can also surge when conditions align. A compelling rookie class, stronger media partnerships, and rising fan engagement can combine to produce financial momentum that once seemed improbable. So the milestone is not just about hitting a number. It is about overturning assumptions. It demonstrates that projections once dismissed as unrealistic can become reality under the right circumstances. And in negotiations, disproving old assumptions is powerful. It reshapes expectations about what is possible going forward.
Announcement by the union comes amid contentious negotiations between the league and the players for a new CBA. Revenue sharing and salary continue to be sticking points. Okay, let's put this out there first. Let us also understand that if they did turn a profit, this was the first time in history. Ever. And if you think that doesn't make these owners nervous, that this was like a one-time hit, that this is not going to have legs, that this is not
28 years. That is the length of time it has taken for the WNBA to finally activate a revenue-sharing mechanism with its players, a milestone that many analysts once believed might never actually occur. For nearly 3 decades the league operated under a financial cloud, often discussed more for its deficits than its growth. So when news broke that revenue sharing had officially been triggered for the first time in league history, it was not just another routine business update. It was a landmark moment that instantly raised eyebrows across the sports world. Yet what truly caught insiders' attention was not only the milestone itself, but the unusual way the information surfaced publicly. The announcement did not originate from the league office, nor from ownership groups, nor from high-profile figures like Adam Silver, whose name is often associated with major basketball business developments. Instead, the disclosure came directly from the Players' Union, released on a quiet Sunday morning in March 2025. That timing and source immediately sparked discussion. In professional sports, major financial milestones are typically unveiled through coordinated press releases, media briefings, or executive statements designed to control messaging. When a union breaks such news first, it can signal that negotiations, leverage dynamics, or internal narratives are already in motion behind the scenes. This distinction matters because labor relations in sports are rarely just about numbers. They are about positioning. Whoever frames the narrative first often influences how fans, sponsors, and analysts interpret the significance of the news. By announcing the revenue-sharing trigger themselves, union representatives effectively set the tone of the conversation. Instead of the story being framed as a cautious financial step forward by management, it could be framed as proof of player value and proof that athlete contributions are directly responsible for league growth. Observers who follow sports economics closely understand that timing is rarely accidental. Releasing information early, especially before league officials issue their own statement, can shift negotiating leverage. It invites public scrutiny, shapes headlines, and creates pressure. Fans begin asking questions. Media outlets start analyzing figures. And suddenly what might have been a quiet accounting milestone becomes a major public talking point. So yes, the headline is historic, revenue sharing has finally arrived. But the method of disclosure tells its own story. It suggests that this development is not simply a financial checkpoint. It is part of a broader strategic landscape involving negotiations, messaging, and influence. And when you see a breakthrough of this magnitude revealed in that particular way, it is usually a sign that something much larger is unfolding beyond what is visible on the surface.
Revenue over a predetermined threshold minus 30% for expenses. In 2025, the players' portion of shared revenue amounted to about $16 million, according to the union. Of that, $8 million will be paid to players who are active in 2025, the union said. As mandated by CBA, the other $8 million will be allocated.
When you step back and look at all these developments collectively, it becomes clear that this moment represents more than a routine financial update. It marks a transitional phase in the league's economic identity. For most of its history, conversations about finances revolved around sustainability and survival. Now the discussion is gradually shifting toward distribution and scale. That change alone signals a fundamental evolution in how the league is perceived within the broader sports industry. Milestones like these often function as inflection points. They don't instantly resolve disputes, but they redefine the framework in which those disputes take place. Before this year, skeptics could argue that revenue sharing was purely theoretical. Now it is demonstrably real. Before, licensing growth could be described as modest. Now it can be quantified as dramatic. Each confirmed data point becomes a reference that negotiators will cite repeatedly in future talks. Another important dimension is psychological. In labor negotiations, perception can be just as influential as actual numbers. When players see tangible proof that financial targets can be met, confidence rises. When owners see that growth is possible but still relatively recent, caution remains. Those differing perspectives shape bargaining strategies. One side pushes for accelerated compensation increases. The other emphasizes long-term stability. The eventual agreement usually lands somewhere between those positions. What makes this period especially significant is that momentum is involved. Growth phases in sports are delicate. Maintaining fan engagement, sponsor interest, and media attention requires continuity. Prolonged disputes or lockouts can stall that progress. Both sides understand that risk, which is why even intense negotiations often end with last-minute compromises designed to keep seasons on schedule. In the end, the headline number, whether $16 million in shared revenue or $9.25 million in licensing, tells only part of the story. The deeper significance lies in what those figures represent: proof of expansion, leverage in negotiations, and a shift in expectations about the league's financial future. After 28 seasons, the conversation is no longer about whether growth is possible. It is about how that growth should shape the next era.